Hey guys, welcome to another video, and today's video subject matter will be titled For Miscegenation and For Race Preservation? Huh? Now the reason I thought I'd make a video on this subject was because not too long ago on Twitter I did a post, and I didn't screenshot any of it, I probably should have, but I did a post where I said that how funny is it that leftists call me racist despite the fact that I'm miscegenated and I'm for race mixing, and at the same time I also said that I was for at least an element of race preservation. And someone responded, a lovely follower, it was a very respectful discourse, responded with, "But you're bordering on cognitive dissonance. How can you be for both? It doesn't make sense." And so I thought this would be a good video where I can sort of illustrate my particular stance on this subject matter. Now there's only so much you can get from facts and reading reports, and I can only go by my own experiences. Now I am myself a product of miscegenation, so it's funny to me that those, particularly in the patriot movement I notice, find it unusual that I am for race mixing. Like they're like, oh, how can you be for race mixing? Well, why would I go against something of which I happen to be the product of? You cannot help which two human beings come together and make a pairing. You cannot help the soul you are born into. My body is a vessel. But I did do some reading. It's The Plight of Mixed Race Adolescents, and it's a Harvard report that was written by Lisa Kahn, Stephen D. Levitt, and Jorg L. Spenkich. So there's a portion that reads, "Mixed race children also fare somewhat worse on measures of psychological well-being." I reject that point. Probably wondering, well, why would you reject it? They've done all this research on it. I reject it because that point is only relevant depending on the social environment in which you're being raised in. If a parent is white and a parent is black, but they both happen to be ideologically the same, these are great elements to a successful relationship. There should be no reason that the child feels conflicted by one colour and another colour, because it's all about ideology. At the end of the day, I believe that. It is all about ideology, and the kids should have a strong sense of who they are based on their Christian foundation, based on the love that their parents have for them. It doesn't make sense that there would be any trauma unless the country that they are from or the area that they are with are making it an issue and are focusing emphasis on the subject of race. And only then would it be psychologically traumatic for the individual, the offspring of a black and a white parent. I think the point certain people were trying to make to me in the thread was that people who happen to be miscegenated don't fare as well in the Western world on an academic level, on a social level, on a work-life balance level, the way someone who is full-blooded would. So it's worth looking into. That is not enough of a factor, in my opinion, to be against mixed race couples, to be against miscegenation, because each individual has potential on their own. There is one point I am willing to slightly concede on, and that is that the report states identities are not as strongly codified as those for monoracial. This essentially means that one individual that came from one race has more of a sense of self because there is no ambiguity to what makes them as a person, and their race is not diluted in any way. You know, it all boils down to ideology, and seeing a person of one colour mixed with a person of another colour, it shouldn't bring anger or hatred into the heart of the observer seeing it from a distance. We're all human. A lot of work has been done. Since movies like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner came out, a lot has happened to change the social landscape of what was once considered taboo and disgusting. And I don't want us to go back to a place where we start segregating people. White water fountain, black water fountain, white cinemas, black cinemas. That's just not a world I want to live in. And we've fought too hard to go against that particular way of thinking, to then revert back to that, and I don't want that. And I believe that people on the far left and that people on the far right, in some way, shape or form, will bring that back into fruition. Only that this time it's the minorities dominating the pop culture and the conversation, and because they will eventually, in my view, have the political power to do so and to say so, white people will eventually be segregated and treated like garbage. And because I believe in thought consistency, I am against that form of racism. I'm against it when it's happening to blacks, I'm against it when it's happening to Latinos, I'm against it when it's happening to Native Americans, and I'm against it when it's happening to white people. And that seems to be possibly where we're headed, and that scares the hell out of me. This is why I am for miscegenation. So then, how can it result that I am also for race preservation? How does that work? I'll tell you. The word or the term race preservation in the United States, I'm fully aware, has very negative connotations, and I understand that. But let me explain it to you the way I view it in this country. There is a high volume of immigrants entering the West, and as such, this high number of immigration also means that there will result in a lot of different pairings. So this dilutes the native British population that constructed and formulated and made this country everything it is today. In 1901, the Immigration Restriction Act was the first legislation passed by the new federal parliament. Essentially, this act restricted non-white people from entering into the country, which they were perfectly within their lawful rights to do. Australia, like much of the West, was once an ethno-nationalist land, until the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, which brought about the failed experiment of multiculturalism. We never asked for it, we were never given a referendum, an opportunity to vote on it, it just happened. You only need to observe what is happening around you. Traffic jams, soaring house prices, gang violence. Explain to me this, why is it okay for countries like Korea, Israel, Japan to be predominantly homogenous, meaning predominantly of one race? Yet when countries like Canada, Australia, America entertain the idea of keeping Australia predominantly homogenous, keeping the West Western, and somehow that conjures up feelings of, oh, that's racist. So it's racist when a white person wants to preserve their culture, their land, but when other cultures and other lands do it, it's perfectly within their rights to do that? Why is this particular responsibility being imposed on the West? I believe each racial group that exists has something extremely unique, has something extremely special. I want to go to Italy to see Italians. I want to go to Italy to experience Venice and Rome and Florence. I want to go to Italy and hear the language and be among the people. I want to go to Italy and experience Italy. I don't want to go to Italy and see no Italians and everyone is Asian and everyone is African and there are no Italians left. That's not Italian culture. This is why I believe in preservation. Cultural preservation, racial preservation shouldn't be a dirty word. It should be okay to want to go to Italy and see Italians. Why is that wrong? When I go to another country, I want the excitement and the novelty factor, the aesthetic reality of that country. I want it to be real and I want to be able to experience it. I'm not stating that we should regulate relationships and that we should, from this point onwards, keep whites with whites, Italians with Italians, blacks with blacks. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying that maybe it's a good idea that people be conscious, people be slightly aware that, you know, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all of these countries that were built on Western Christian Judeo principles, be aware that there is this influx of immigration and you will soon no longer be a homogenous, predominantly homogenous society. You know, it's probably already past that point anyway. Just look around you, look at all the advertising, irrelevant things like an advertisement for toothpaste has a black woman and a white man, happy couple. Doesn't bother me by any means, but there does seem to be this push, there does seem to be this sort of globalist agenda. I'm not saying I believe and that I engage in conspiracy theories about the eradication and genocide of white people through black and white couples or through multiculturalism at large, but there is some sort of validity to that claim that is worth looking into. I do, however, believe in being aware of what is happening around you, and at the end of the day, I think if you believe that we were all created in God's image, it all goes back to God for me. It all goes back to my faith. Australia should be predominantly white. It shouldn't be controversial to say that. So I hope this information I have outlined has given you all some sort of insight into my thoughts and feelings regarding the subject matter of miscegenation and race preservation. Pride in heritage, pride in nation, pride in country, these are things that should be perceived as virtues and not seen as iniquities. Anyway guys, thanks so much for tuning into this video. All my social media links are in the description box below if you want to follow me. Click the bell if you want to stay updated on all my latest videos or live streams, and rise without fear.